Welcome back to Learn MoGraph. Today we'll be covering an often overlooked feature of After Effects when it comes to compositing and building effect stacks. Let's hop over to After Effects and take a closer look. Have you ever been twirling down your options in After Effects and you get down to your effect stack and you've come across this option right here and you've had no idea exactly what it was used for? Well, it's called compositing options, and it gives you a lot of flexibility as to where you want an effect to be applied on your layer based on where you put your masks. It makes it really easy to create complex effect stacks on your layer, but keep each effect independent from one another. Let's take a look at a few different use cases where this might be useful. In our first example here, we have a city and we have sort of a tilt shift effect applied on it. And a tilt shift effect is when you have a really wide field of view, you focus in on a very tiny sliver of the image. And we created this with just a few different effects, but all on a single layer. If we turn all of these off, we'll see that it's just a shot of New York City. And we have an interesting little icon that pops up next to our effects here. And that's due to the compositing options that we've added. So let's hop into a clean version and take a look at how we would apply something like this. We're gonna go over to my AE Juice Pack Manager. And it's kind of a funny name, but it has a lot of really useful tools in it. I'm gonna use the Pexels video portion of it. And I'm just gonna type in aerial city. So we got an aerial shot of a city. Hopefully we can get one that's similar to the image example that I had. This looks like it might be a good example here. We're just going to select that and we're going to click import, and it's going to bring it right into my After Effects composition. I'm just going to go to the end of my composition and we're going to trim it to fit the footage. And we're going to add our first effect to create that tilt shift effect, which is a fast box blur. So we're going to add that. We're going to crank the blur radius up something like 8. And the iterations, we're gonna give it like a 5, so it makes it nice and smooth. And now we're going to add a mask. So we're gonna go up to our rectangle tool or press Q on our keyboard. And we're just gonna draw out a mask. And I think we wanna focus on maybe this part of the image that had that building in it. And right now you see it treats it as a regular mask would. But we're going to go down to our timeline and I'm gonna twirl down effects. We're gonna twirl down fast box blur. And down here we have our compositing options. And right now there's nothing in there except effect opacity. And that just treats the effect on the small sliver that we've masked out. But if we click this plus option here, it brings back our image and it makes our mask act as a mask only on the effect and not on the entire image. So if we frame that back up, we can see that just within the mask is blurred. We can change how the mask is treated if we change this from add to subtract. It works just like a mask would on footage, except it applies it to just the effect. And the cool thing about this is now we have access to our mask options. So if we wanted to really feather this out, maybe on the top and bottom, we can do that just by adjusting the mask. We can adjust the mask expansion and really bring this in to make a nice little sliver of in focus right there. And we can also adjust the opacity. So if we wanted to bring this effect in gradually, so maybe we were showing a scene that was far away and we wanted to focus in on just this part of the frame, we just fade in our mask opacity. And that brings everything else out of focus and we can really focus in on here. And some of the other cool examples you can do with this. So now that we have our effect masked out with our mask, we can actually animate our mask, and that takes into account the effect. So if we add a keyframe at the beginning, and let's say we move it forward 1 second, and we can take our mask and close it up sort of like this. So it starts out with everything out of focus, and then we scrub forward. It just opens up that mask and we get the effect applied to just that one selected area that we want to see it. Another cool thing that you can do with this is because we are applying this with masks, we also get the ability to track our masks and move them throughout our footage. So in the first example, we saw how we could manually animate the mask. But in this example, we have the mask tracked to the girl here as she's walking through this field. And we've given it this kind of dreamy, shimmery look with a turbulent displacement effect. And we've made everything except her sort of shimmery and displaced, except she stays nice and in focus because the mask is just tracked around her. And you do get some cool fringing around the edge, which is, I think, is kind of neat. So let's hop into a clean composition and take a look at how we created this. Again, we're gonna go over to our Pexels video, and we're just gonna type in girl walking and see what we get. Maybe we get something that's similar. All right, let's take this image here. That's sort of a similar image. And we're gonna just click import. And we have this nice shot of a girl walking through the flowers, carrying a kid. I think we're gonna trim it there because she's out of the frame. And we're just going to take our pen tool here and zoom in a little bit. And we're just gonna roughly mask around her. Zoom out, press M on our keyboard to bring up our mask options. I'm gonna change that to none so we can see the rest of the frame. We're going to right click our mask and go to track mask, which is going to bring up our tracker options. And we're just gonna click analyze forward and see how After Effects treats that. All right, so right away I kind of lost where the girl is. So I think I'm just gonna roughly mask this out. But you kind of get the point that you can track an object with a mask and the effect should be applied to it. All right, now our mask is kind of roughly following this girl and actually did a much better job than having After Effects do it manually. We'll frame up our footage here. We'll select our layer and we'll add turbulent displacement. Right away, we get this wavy effect applied to all of our footage. I'm gonna crank up the amount, make it really shimmery, lower the size a little bit so it becomes almost like heat waves that you see off the road. We're gonna add a keyframe on our evolution at the beginning and a keyframe at the end. We're just gonna change this to something like 2. So we get some movement throughout. It's kind of cool, you get this sort of watercolor effect going on. We're just gonna twirl down evolution options and click cycle evolution. And again, we're gonna go down to our timeline, twirl down effects, turbulent displace, and compositing options. And we're just gonna click the plus sign, and that's gonna add our mask. And right now, we can see that the mask isn't being taken into effect, and that's because the mask is set to none. So we're just gonna click that and go down to subtract. And now she is nice and in focus, and the rest of the image has that sort of watercolor look to it. And we can, again, twirl down our mask options and feather this out a little bit. And now she stays nice and in focus while the rest of the frame is all shimmery and watercolor looking. One of the other cool things you can do with this is you can apply different masks to different effects. If we wanted to select our footage here and maybe we wanted to add a transform effect and we wanted to increase the scale. And right now you can see because we added it as an effect, our mask is no longer taken into account. But because the mask was applied before the effect, it is still keeping her in focus, even though visually the mask isn't where it's supposed to be. So we're just going to go up to our rectangle tool, and I think we want to zoom in on the left side of this footage. So we're going to add our mask. We'll keep that on add, and we'll scroll down to our effect stack here, twirl down transform, and we'll click a plus next to compositing options, and that takes into effect mask 2. And now we have this window over here, which is zoomed in compared to the rest of the footage. And we can adjust how that's treated by taking these 2 mask points here, and we can drag them out and kind of create this cool wipe effect. So another use of this is creating transitions between sections of footage all on one layer. So we can create really cool, complex, and interesting effects just by using an effect stack of different effects and different masks applied to those different effects. And to make this a little bit more different, maybe we can add a lumetri color, and we'll twirl down basic and we'll just completely desaturate it. And again, go down to our effects, compositing options, and we'll change that to mask 2. And I think that creates a pretty neat effect using just one layer of footage, a couple masks, and a couple basic effects. If you enjoyed this tutorial and you have any questions about compositing options or ways that you can apply them, feel free to drop a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.